I wasn't going to do any more electric pianos, and then I knew somebody would say, "What about the Rhodes?" Yeah, Tony Banks had a Rhodes, or did he? Did he just have it at the studio? So let's talk about Tony's Rhodes. It's on Wind and Wuthering. Obviously, it's on Your Own Special Way, but I hear it on One for the Vine. I think I think I like when Tony Banks, you could tell that he just had a whole song that he wrote and really arranged. And you can hear them on the record that he just plays piano all the way through. I think Robbery, Assault, and Battery, Madman Moon. What else? One for the Vine, Burning Rope. And then if there was a live version of it, he would just like not play the piano. It's crazy, right? Probably the closest is One for the Vine in 78 and 70 and 80. So anyway, I hear the Rhodes doubling the piano in places on the album of Wind and Wuthering. Definitely on Your Own Special Way. I hear it doing the same thing on Say It's All Right, Joe on the record. I hear Rhodes in there, but there's also piano. Live, of course, was the CP70. And then a Rhodes, do a lot of you know this maybe? I don't know if you do or not. It's going to get better. The studio version, that's a Rhodes. Isn't that cool? Like 5 years later, he was like, yes. And it sounds amazing. I think that's my favorite Rhodes track. And then, of course, live, he used the CP70, as seen on the Mama Tour video. So he did have one. I dug out my reissue of A Curious Feeling, and I knew it was in the liner notes. There's a picture in there that would make all of us nerdgasm. It's just like every piece of gear. And this piano is in the front. So what is this? This is a Rhodes Mark I Stage 73. I have a Stage 88 Mark I. It's got the legs instead of the suitcase cabinet. They call those Rhodes suitcase or Rhodes Stage, has the legs. I dated my Rhodes. I mean, I didn't take it on a date, but I found out what date it was made. There's a stamp on the inside, and mine was made in 76. I like to think that my Stage 88 Mark I came off the assembly line right before or after Tony's. That's what I'm telling myself. So I pulled this up. I wanted to do a video about his Rhodes, but I also figured let's talk about Key Suite a little bit more. So the way Key Suite is organized, there's tines. So a Rhodes is a hammered tine, like a skinny long. I'll just look up Rhodes tine, and you'll see what it looks like. And there's a lot of them. Look at all these marks, this and that. Student models, broken 88 key. I mean, this is really cool. I don't even think I've opened most of these. What's wrong with me? Okay, Reeds is with a W, that's Wurlitzer. So 140B, a 145. Those are like the Ray Charles. They call them like they're like the weird colored ones. Look up Billy Payne from Little Feat. And look at his Waiting for Columbus 70s rig. He had one of these. My God. My favorite Wurlitzer tone is Ian McLagan of the Faces. And I think he used a 200 series. If you look at the Nods as Good as a Wink cover. Is that the album cover I'm thinking of? Okay, so this is like the solid state one, I think. And then just look it up. Watch the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx. You'll see the 100 series. And then Supertramp, 200. Okay. Hammered reed. Just like a hammered tine, hammered reed. The Pianet and Chemblet and all those are plucked reeds. Chemblet is plucked with a plastic plectrum. The Pianets with a sticky pad. Clavinets is a clavichord, a hammered string, like you would finger tap a guitar. Doesn't like there's not like a hammer that I'm using my hands to describe this. I don't know. I just realized you can't see it. So like if you think the way a piano works, the hammer hits the string, or in this case, the tine or the reed, and then releases. And then there is a damper that falls back on the device, the vibrating device. On the clavinet, you're hammering it like you would Eddie Van Halen guitar on a fingerboard. Those are rubber also. So and then electric pianos, that's the CP series, right? There's a Kawai did one too. So I just wanted to. Wow, I talk too much on these. So anyway, here's the Rhodes, and instead of doing amplitude, I get weird feedback loops when I have all these plugins going. So I kept it simple, and when I chose it, I just chose the Mark 1970. I figured that was closest to Tony's, and I chose chorus because I've never heard it on any of his records without the chorus. And then I went into the effects and I tweaked it. This was EQ'd. Like if you're familiar with the Dyno My Rhodes, it was like an add-on EQ to get that really bright bell-like sound where there's a lot of attack at the beginning. So I just, it looks like I flattened it out kind of. With this was all the way up. It was kind of an offensive sound. And then I left on the UVI chorus Thoris, so I'm not using my CE1. And I turned off the reverb. Okay, so I'm going to give a treat for you guys. This is like a bonus track. I don't think I'll ever make a your own special way video. And I'll tell you, here's another story about being in a Genesis tribute band. I'm going to make you listen to this before I play your own special way. But when I first joined the band, the mission statement had been set. We were doing the 77 tour. But if you listen to the bootlegs, like he had all these amazing keyboards in the studio on Wind and Wuthering. He had a Steinway Grand. He blended the Mellotron with the Roland RS-202 string thing. So everything like Blood on the Rooftops. I mean, what a sound. He barely used the Pro Soloist. It's on. I think he used the Pro Soloist on Unquiet Slumbers, like on the French horn sound maybe, and then on, of course, that little main riff on the English horn on Blood on the Rooftops. Do 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 do. That thing, right? But he used the ARP 2600 for all those amazing leads. So the 2600, grand piano, Rhodes, string machine blended with, and then they go on tour and he uses like the Selling England by the Pound rig. So it's, we wanted to do the Seconds Out tour, but then like all the Wind and Wuthering songs that weren't on Seconds Out, and then have the audience hear the RMI go clink, 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 clink for One for the Vine. So that lineup at that time, we were like, no, we were going to do the studio versions. And in retrospect, we sounded pretty good. We pulled it off. This is the Genesis show I'm talking about. Like 5 years ago, we pulled it off and we did a few shows and it really sounded good. We did like What Gorilla. I mean, we played every song off of that album live, even the ones they didn't do live, like Unquiet Slumbers and Blood on the Rooftops. And I was miserable. I mean, I had so many splits and layers. Oh, and I was like, this is why Tony, well, he couldn't have done it back then. But I think Tony Banks, there's so many genius things about him that he wrote so well. Underrated composer, underrated keyboard. I think it's stupid when people like, who's the best prog rock? I mean, Tony Banks is just, did Rick Wakeman or Keith Emerson write songs as great as Tony Banks? I don't know. They did not. And I love those guys. Love them. So it's, we'll talk about Tony Banks ad nauseum, I'm sure. But Dude knew how to arrange things live. I mean, he really, like, he had all that messed and he didn't let it overwhelm him. I mean, imagine if he had just played a grand piano on the Wind and Wuthering tour. Like, this is what I did the track on, and how different it would be. You know, he knew what to do in a live situation. So if you listen to Your Own Special Way live, it's like a completely different thing. And we knew this was going to be the one track that the wives that were dragged to see us would like and recognize. So we learned the studio version, and I charted it all out, and it doesn't really match the bootlegs, which is like an organ pro soloist kind of mashup. So here is the interlude on my quick approximation of the 1976 Rhodes sound on Wind and Wuthering. Oh, you know what? Let me put the keys up so you can see the notes if you ever want to learn this. Can I make this bigger? All right. Hopefully you can read the keys. What? And that goes throughout. And then there's a chorus, you know. And that kind of thing. Isn't that lovely? And in that interlude, I'd have to layer it with a Hammond because there's like a really chill Hammond pad going on underneath. And instead of just playing a nice piano part, I had to get that Hammond in there and like worry about not letting go of notes, but using the sustain pedal for the piano. And then I had to do weird. I mean, there's 3 tracks of ARP 2600. Well, at least 3 notes. I mean, I have a feeling there was like a duophonic take and then a monophonic overdub. But he's using the 2600, but you can only play so many notes on that. There's 3 distinct parts. So I had to do this weird thing where I was like, I had a split with 2 instances of the old Odyssey app, the Oddity app from G4. Oh my God. And everyone, and then everyone's just singing and swaying and strumming acoustic guitars, and people in the audience, you know, we fell in love to this song, and I'm up there sweating because it's a simple song, but in order to make it sound like the record, I did all these MIDI tricks, and it was like everyone else is having a good time, and I'm like performing eye surgery. It was just, and then eventually, once we moved on from that tour, I'm like, guys, I can't do this anymore. If we're doing the studio versions, it's just, and it was much more fun to play. So that's some advice and some deep cuts right there for you. Thanks for hanging out.